Good morning, Schibsted, wherever you are. If you're in Finland, Poland, Norway, or Sweden, fantastic to see you, and it's a great morning. I hope all of you joined the SATS hour or half hour and got your blood pump a bit up this morning. So, who am I? I am Sven. I am the Chief Data and Technology Officer representing all of the product and tech teams in Schibsted, in the top management of Schibsted. And this is the second time we have the Schibsted Product and Tech Festival. And one of the reasons, and maybe the most important reasons for being here, is to be inspired by each other and get to learn new stuff. But before, I'll get a bit more back into what the Schibsted Product and Tech Festival is going to be about this time. Take a look at this video.
Hi, I just wanted to thank everyone for participating in the Inspiration Day. I think it's super that people in product and tech can come together and share and learn and be inspired. I saw the program you're going to have. It looked great. Super presentations and speakers and even a cooking class. So I hope you guys will have fun and enjoy it and be super inspired.
That's what we are hoping to be this day. So thanks a lot to Kristin, the CEO of Schibsted. And as you can see, she's also at home at this point of time. She's going to join us most likely on the third day when we're going to show the demos from the hackathon. So I'm a part of the steering committee, and we'll meet the rest of the steering committee later on today. And this whole initiative came up by just more bottom-up in a way, and having people coming to us and saying, well, maybe we should meet from time to time. So even though most of you are really connected to your brands, we're also part of a family of brands in Schibsted that are working together on quite a few projects. And as you might know, we're about 1,000 people in Schibsted working in the product and tech and UX and data in Schibsted. And that's about 20% of the workforce. It's a very significant powerhouse of product and tech in our countries. So why are we doing this? We're doing this to connect the dots, so you can learn what's going on in the different companies and understand what kind of projects we're working on. We want to get you to know each other and exchange knowledge. A lot of you are working on some of the same problems, maybe not the same customer problems, or some of the same product problems or technical product problems. I mean, it's great to get to know people and to be able to reach out to them later on. And we also want to establish a set of commonalities in the way we do product and tech in Schibsted. For example, having the same terminologies, because it makes it so much easier to work together, and it makes it a lot easier to move to different parts of the company. And many of you actually do that. Many of you have been having jobs in a lot of different places in Schibsted in the last years, and we'd like to stimulate to that as well. Last but not least, we're here to have some fun and get inspired. Not in the bar, unfortunately, this time, but in virtual space. But I hope really we're going to get a lot of good things during this program, because this time we have extended the program. We have endorsed the Hack Day, and we have got a lot of more content than last time. We have external keynote speakers. We have a lot of interesting internal cases. We got fireside chats, and we got a lot of inspiration. We're even going to have our own cooking class, and it was voted up to be bao with pulled butternut squash, lime leaf, and plum sauce that we're going to make in the course today. We're going to have Kahoot with great prizes, and then we're going to kick off the hackathon tomorrow, the 25th hackathon across Schibsted, with demos on the third day. Digital Festival is really not like a physical festival, but we're trying to get the same engagement. So we have a Slack channel where we keep you updated. We're about north of 500 people joining today, so there should be a lot of good content. Just Slack whatever you want in that channel and inspire each other and show where you are, and if you're in the forest and listening to things, because that's what you can do. That's what you can do today. Or if you're somewhere else, just share it with us. Say hi to people and cheer the speakers on in the YouTube chats. It's kind of difficult sometimes to have chats with 500 people that you don't see. So any encouraging, hey, let's go, and so on, that's really, really appreciated by us that are doing presentations. So Today, I'm going to use the possibility to talk a bit about the foundation in a bit of a different view. So the Schibsted Foundation that quite a few people are in Schibsted also are working on. But before I do that, take a look at this short video. Yes, we call this the Schibsted Mall, and it's a bit of a skunkworks project, actually. I personally got inspired by Ian Venman and some of the people in Next that had a project that was called the Ecosystem Project, where they referred to Schibsted as a bazaar in a way. And I thought about that, and when we met some of the new companies that we just acquired in Finland and in Sweden, and hi to all you in Finland, we talked about the foundation. It's kind of hard to explain, right? And it's a bit static. It's not very exciting to be a foundation. So we wanted to frame it in a different way, a more inspiring way. And it's like a modern shopping mall. And for some of you that have been to the modern shopping malls, you might not experience it, but they are not about offering a parking lot and a roof for the tenants. And that's about it. It's a lot more that you do in modern shopping malls. They have, of course, internet and Wi-Fi for all the shops. They have security services. They have common infrastructure for payment. They have common customer database. They might have loyalty programs where you're offered to get into the shopping mall in the late hours to get a special treat or a special offer. They have common cantina. They might have common financial services. They have common HR services, maybe even. And all of these things are what it means to be a modern shopping mall. Some of the most modern ones have done a lot about what we do in the digital space. They offer public Wi-Fi to gather data from their customers so they can provide the tenants with heat maps, for example, saying that, you know, if you move your shop from this place to this place in the store, you will meet the customers that are between 20 and 25. And especially if you put people in your store that are working there extensively out in the hallways, pulling them in between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the afternoon, because that's when they are there after school. So they are a lot more advanced, and in a digital way, this is what we do in Schibsted, right? You can most likely, and not all of the brands are represented in this picture, but you can see your shops there, and we try to bring them in the buses that you can see in the front. And the buses are the big ecosystems, right? That's Google, that's Apple and iOS. And a lot of us in the foundation teams in data and tech are working on trying to help you out in maximizing the customer flow from those ecosystems and the data from those ecosystems that is becoming quite difficult to get, right? And then we get the customers off the bus and we log them in, so to say, into the ecosystem in the mall. And then they are into the shops and they meet all the different customers. Of course, the customers are not always coming through the mall, but it's a way of visualizing it. And the best thing would be that if you're working in one store, you actually know what's going on in that store, and you know the customer, and you know what they've done in other stores. And that's in practice what we do with data. So it's the Schibsted Mall. That's what we are, a family of brands in a big mall. And if you look into the picture at some point of time, you can even find the finance guys in the back counting cash and the people recruiting people from the HR teams. And the CEO is actually present there somewhere, if you look a bit more. So that was the mall. So we are the builders and operators of these shops and the infrastructure there. And today we're going to get inspiration from a lot of you that are in this mall. But before that, I'm going to have a fireside chat with some of the other ones from the SteelCo. So let's bring them on. right, welcome everyone. Great to see you. Hope you're really excited. We're missing Pat today, but Pat is going to step down as a CTO, so it wasn't natural for him to join. But next time we'll have someone from the Blocket organization. All right, so let's spend a bit of time of introducing yourself to the team here. Christian, you'd like us to kick off?
Yes, hello everyone, I'm Christian. I'm day-to-day CEO of Finn.no, and I'm also EVP for Nordic Marketplaces.
Laila?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Laila, and I am the CPO for News Media. Really looking forward to today and all the discussions that will be ignited as a consequence of all the interesting stuff we're going to hear.
Okay, hey guys, I'm Dan. I'm working with FinTech in Schibsted. Been here since 2004. I don't have an O, but my last name starts with an O, so I'm Dano. It's cooler than CPO.
Yeah. You shouldn't, if you're Norwegian, I said that a joke could be that I'm Sven-O, then you would laugh, but the rest of you won't understand it, right? All right, it's great to see you here, and I'm going to ask you a couple of questions as far as I chat, and some of them might be a bit painful, and Christian, this might be a bit painful, because you used to work on getting scale on marketplaces in a very famous project called Rocket, and now
Yes.
We're going from 2 to 4 countries in the marketplaces. And now we're starting to talk about, well, is that enough scale? And if it is enough scale, should we really start to embark on the same kind of journey or a different way of approaching getting scale in our marketplaces organizations? Curious about that.
Well, thanks for asking the tough questions. First of all, I just want to say hi to all our new colleagues in Finland. Good to have you here. And to your question, Sven, I think, first of all, it's certainly true that we are working on solving many of the same problems across our countries, especially in the area of next generation marketplaces. And one thing that we have learned is that when you go deep into the customer journeys, it's actually harder to reuse solutions within a country because it's just too different the way you sell your car compared to how you rent an apartment or how you recruit top talent, for example. But actually these things, they are quite similar across countries. So the way you sell your car isn't that different. So there may be opportunity for collaboration in that sense, and we already have some of that. Exchanging best practices in motors, for example, even working on some common technology in Casa and Netbil and so on. So yes, I do think that there will be more collaboration in specific areas like this. I don't believe in one marketplace platform. And as you said, I've been part of this before, and I learned the hard way what doesn't work. And I think if we're going to succeed, and I think it is possible, then we have to do it in a different way, much more focused on specific areas, and a completely different approach to organization, building on the really strong teams that we have locally today, and not think that a team in London can solve things for us.
Yeah, it seems like we're going to be based in the Nordics on this at least. What about, can you bring an example? I mean, we have one that we're working on right now, right? On the recommendation side. Would you like to enlighten us a bit about that?
Yeah, so I think recommendations is a good example. We saw that Oikotie in Finland, they have had a recommendation engine from Sanoma, and when we disconnect Oikotie from Sanoma, they are kind of out of such a solution. And we looked to Finn, and we saw that actually the solution in Finn may actually work also in Finland, and maybe even in Denmark after, when we come there, and maybe even in Sweden. Let's see. But we start with Finland at least.
Yeah, and I was a part of those discussions initially. It was super cool to just see how people were just thinking, well, how can we solve this without being political or anything? It's just, okay, we can do it in this way. Let's try it out. That's
great.
that's a good Schibsted spirit. Yeah, that's great. Laila, I mean, news media. That's been quite a bit change for you, I guess, from being a part of the marketplaces organization for a while, and it's been pretty rough for a period of time. One of the things that I'm really curious about is that that sometimes becomes the fog of war, right? And underneath there are lots of really great things happening on innovation in the product and tech area. Can you tell us a bit about those really great things that are going on?
Yeah, of course, I will tell about that. But first, I wanted to say, that today it's like Christmas Eve and birthday at the same time. It's US election, guys. So our product is the day of the year, I guess, where our products are used by more people. So we are doing a lot of exciting things around audio content as examples. And one of the things we did this fall was to make our apps into platforms for podcasts, where we have really good results from that. And, as opposed to marketplaces, we have to a larger and larger degree, we have shared front-end framework, we have shared CMSs, and now we have taken big steps towards creating more streamlined visual storytelling across brands, and both in regards to feature articles that use live images and sound, and also something we call story content, which is a way to communicate well, especially with young people. And I also want to emphasize the way we work to cover and have strong focus on live feeds. We're letting the user follow the news minute for minute through text and video, and also giving them added opportunity to ask questions and get feedback real time. And I think that will be especially loved by our users today. And then finally, I think we are working really well across our brand team and our common team. The brand teams at this point have a special focus on improving the front-end experience for our users, while the common teams are working more with algorithms, new technology to see how we can improve conversion rates and create new tools for our newsrooms. And then, of course, in the end, I want to encourage you all to listen in to some of the great cases that will be presented from news media later today.
Yeah, I guess we're all of us are going to be pretty focused on Aftonbladet, VG, Aftenposten these next couple of days. It's going to be quite exciting, to be honest. All right, it's great to hear, Laila. Dan, on the old hands, last time you talked about fintech and you talk about the projects that we're doing there, but you're also a very, very instrumental part of the Next organization, where there are so many things going on that I don't think a lot of our people know about. Can you tell us a bit about what's going on in Next?
Sure. I mean, a lot of things going on in Next. The stuff I work with is on the fintech. We love fintech. It's the business area where we help people improve their finances, like Lendo. We compare stuff, and we also love it because it's going to be part of all the products we build going forward. I mean, modern digital services will use fintech to work. I mean, in the next gen marketplaces, you will identify yourself and pay and get receipts and stuff like that. So that's the fintech part. And overall in Next, there's so much going on in product development all over the place. One common theme, which I think is interesting and also for the festival, is that we're now doing a lot of multi-country products, right? So we're taking one product and moving it to the next market. TV.nu, Podme, Prisjakt, Lendo. And that brings challenges, new customer behaviors, new partners in that market, and then you want to be efficient and use the same platform, all those good challenges. One especially interesting one is we just built up Lendo Spain. A small team, I think it was 5 or 6 people on the team, they were building this, during the pandemic. They put it up. It's a localized version of Lendo, so it's, Lendo and Spain at the same time. So we have to integrate with the Spanish bank partners. That means new data they want to have for their credit scoring, and then you have to cope with that. And there's the user behaviors. And what's cool is actually the first time that we're using PSD2, which means we're taking data from our users' bank accounts, and we take that data not to sort of harvest it and do advertising, but to make the product smoother and to make their life together with the banks easier, which is pretty cool. They don't have to fill out as much information and so forth. So that's cool. And also it's the first time we're actually deploying on Google Cloud, which is quite scary, but also pretty interesting. So lots of that stuff going on. Interesting times, and it's I'm really looking forward to hear the progress on how you cooperate in marketplaces, Christian, as well. It's it's a challenge. You want to be as fast as you can, and at the same time you don't want to invent the wheel 4 times.
It's a fine balance. It's a fine balance between pragmatism and scale and speed. It's an unsolved problem with a lot of friction that we just have to to work on all the time. And I think we should give some kudos to the news media organization that actually has been able to do this and are about to do the last parts of this within their CBS organization, right? And it's been one hell of a ride. Sorry for the swearing here, but I think it's been one hell of a ride actually for some of you that have been on board for that for a long time. So it's not easy, but it's necessary sometimes to do it. So I think Christian, I really like your approach, and Dan, you're into the same problem solving, so to say, in your organization, at least the ones that are going to scale across countries.
Yeah.
All right. Any comments from you, Christian, or the unicorn about what Dan was saying?
Oh, I'm unicorn. Okay. No. Of course, I just want to say that moving to common platforms, it's not only important to do the investment in that common platform, but everyone needs to buy into that idea, and because it will be painful, as you said, Sven. But then in the end, the effort is worthwhile.
Yeah, I think it's fair to leave it on the note. We don't have that many minutes left to say that we're not trying to prime you now for a big multi-country marketplaces platform. Just to be so we don't have a shitstorm about that in the Slack channel afterwards. We're trying to approach this in a different way, as Christian just said. I will have the last question and I'll start with you, Christian. I know there are comments about this. Machine learning is something that Christian, both and you and I are quite passionate about, and we have been discussing back and forth. Where are we on the scale of utilizing this, and where should we be? And do you have any reflection on this?
Yeah, well, I think there are huge opportunities here, and I mean, you mentioned the recommendations here earlier. If you take that as an example, Finn is the best marketplace in this area, and about 20% of the page views actually come from recommendations. And if we were able to apply that to Finland, we would probably go from number 2 positions in real estate and cars. So it's just an example of the kind of impact it can have. And I think we have built up a really good data science teams over the years, and we've been particularly successful in advertising maybe, but there are so many other areas, and Vinted is one of Europe's fastest growing marketplaces, and out of 350 employees, they actually have 50 working with machine learning in all kinds of different areas: customer service, fraud prevention, sales, you name it. So I would really like us to broaden the scope of our thinking in this area and see new opportunities. And I mentioned to you before this, Sven, that some years back when I was in between jobs, I actually took the time to sit down and code a couple of ML examples myself, learned Python and TensorFlow. And I never became an expert, of course, but it kind of opened my eyes to the opportunities and what kind of problems it's possible to solve with this kind of technique. And I think more people needs exposure to that in Schibsted, so we can apply it more broadly.
And Laila, what do you think about this? You don't have to be an engineer, mind you, to understand this domain.
No, so I think it can scare people off when you think you need to be able to code in
TensorFlow.
to understand what ML and AI can do for you. I mean, for me, it's no hocus pocus. It's technology, modern technology that is a bit smarter. And I think, as with any product development, the thing is to really understand which problem are you trying to solve for whom. And then, in many times, ML can help you solve that in a better way. And we can make more revenue, reduce costs, improve the user experience. And then what I want, for those of you who are a bit curious on the topic, I want to recommend a training called Elements of AI, which is originated by the University of Helsinki, and it's available in all our languages. And then I also want to recommend to listen to our very own AI expert, Anne Stenbom, who I think is explaining what this is in an excellent way.
Don, anything from you?
Yeah. Can I share a video clip?
You don't have time for that. Sorry about that. No more video clips from you, Don. That's for sure.
I don't know if you can see it, but in '91 the Terminator was launched. The movie Terminator. It was Terminator 2. The guy says, "I'm a neural net processor." I think that sort of sums it up.
All right.
I'll post it in the Slack channel. You can go watch.
That's cool. Do it in the Slack channel. That's great. And I'll ask Jon Einar or someone to also add both Agnes talk about this. But Joanna Hasfrid, that's the head of the ML team centrally. She has a fantastic talk about ML that she just did the other week. That I think also should be posted here. That's also available on us if you'd like to do that. Thanks so much to Christian and Don and Laila. It's been great to have you here. Let's roll on in the Product and Tech Festival. Right now, we're going to give you a 5-minute break before Matthew Skelton, the guy who actually wrote Team Topology's book, and is going to talk about exactly that. So 5 minutes break. See you around.
Have fun, everyone.
Welcome back from your coffee break. Well, it's time to introduce the first keynote speaker this day. Matthew Skelton, he works at a company called Conflux, and he's also the co-author of the book called Team Topologies that many of you have read. And if you haven't read it, it's about time to do it. So he's going to talk about what is platform as a product. And in Schibsted, we have many views of platforms, right? But I think that one thing that we can all agree is that teams have different roles and teams have different speeds. So let's hear a bit more about that. So the floor is yours, Matthew. Go.
Hi everyone, thanks Sven. Thank you for inviting me here today to speak. It's great to be with you today from the UK. So I'm Matthew Skelton, I'm the co-author of this book, Team Topologies, which was published just over a year ago in September 2019 by IT Revolution. I'm the founder at Conflux, and I've got experience as a software developer, system architect, technical director, and I've run conferences and all sorts of things like this. And I spend most of my time now helping organizations to become more effective at modern software delivery through a variety of means, including using the ideas from Team Topologies. So the book has been, we've been very pleased with the reception of the book since it was published. Lots of organizations around the world are now using some of the ideas in different ways. It seems to be useful for organizations to think about how they're operating as an organization. So Charles Betts, who's at Forrester Research, described the material in the book as kind of innovative tools and concepts for structuring the next generation digital operating model. So it's the patterns in there help us to think about certainly how our IT organization should work as a thing. But actually some organizations are using it even beyond IT, using it in legal and facilities and other places. Today, we're going to look at this. We're going to explore what is platform as a product and why should I adopt this approach. So the talk will look like this. There'll be broadly 4 sections. We'll look at what is a platform to start with. Then we'll look at what really is a product. It's worthwhile taking just a few minutes to remind ourselves what actually is a product. It sounds obvious, but I think you'll appreciate we go through that. We've got a couple of examples of organizations using platform as a product, and then a few ideas towards the end for getting started. So first of all, what is a platform? Let's be quite specific about what we mean. And there's a really great definition here from Evan Botcher that we use in the Team Topologies book. A digital platform is a foundation of self-service APIs, tools, services, knowledge, and support, which are arranged as a compelling internal product. That is quite a mouthful. So let's just break it down a little bit into more bite-sized chunks. We've got some self-service APIs, tools, and services. And this is really key for a modern platform. The things that we're providing are almost entirely self-service. Any teams that are using what we're providing can simply go ahead and use it without having to raise a ticket or without having to make a request for a human to go and do something. Clearly, as we're developing new kind of services, there'll be some collaboration, and we'll look at that a little bit later on today in the talk. But generally speaking, any of the things that we're providing can be accessed without a request to a human being. So there's a set of tools around it, and there's a sense of providing a service around some of these capabilities from the platform. There's knowledge and support that goes along with it. Clearly articulated documentation and kind of onboarding guides. And if something goes wrong, there are human beings to help us. And crucially, it's a compelling internal product. This is something that teams want to use. It looks appealing. They go, wow, I want to use that product. Just as it would be if it were an actual product that you buy from the shop or that you consume online. In the ThoughtWorks Tech Radar from May 2020, this year, a few months ago, there's 2 interesting recommendations from ThoughtWorks. And the first recommendation is to adopt product management for internal platforms. So that's basically what we're talking about today. So ThoughtWorks have seen this approach be very effective in multiple different clients around the world, and they're recommending that we all adopt this approach. So that's exactly what we're talking about today. And in fact, they also recommend that you try using what they call here product teams. In the book, we call them streamline teams inside the platform as well. And they explicitly call out team topologies. They explicitly mention team topologies in the May 2020 ThoughtWorks Tech Radar as an influence on their thinking around this. So they said we've been using the concepts from team topology to split platform teams in our projects into enablement teams, core platform within a platform teams, and stream focused teams. So this is something which technology leaders like ThoughtWorks have actually been trying out and finding useful in multiple different situations. Since we wrote the book, in fact, we've kind of gone beyond the thinking in the book a little bit, or refined it. I wish I'd included this phrase in the book, basically. We didn't, but anyway, you've got it here today. So I now see a platform as a curated experience for engineers who are the customers of the platform. There's no mention of technology there. The strong focus is on the experience that our customers are going to have when using this thing, and that's our starting point. If you remember just one slide from this entire talk, this entire presentation, it's this slide here. This is the slide to remember. Platform is a curated experience for engineers. That's our starting point. Everything else kind of comes from that. We'll look in more detail now what we mean by that. So if we're treating the platform as a product, we're making sure it's reliable, usable, it's fit for purpose, and it has voluntary internal customers who choose to use the platform. What we're trying to do is to create what you might call a path of least resistance. So we've got this kind of road through the forest. We're trying to make the right thing the easiest thing to do. So make the right thing easy, effectively, when using this platform. So we're applying some quite strong opinions, but those opinions have been informed by how our customers need to work, and we're making that way of working very straightforward. In the book, we define 4 different types of team. We start with a stream-aligned team, which is an end-to-end responsibility for a particular part of the product or service landscape or an application. And the 3 supporting team types are there to help the streamlined teams deliver. That's their really only purpose. And that includes a platform team or a platform in place. The only real, the starting point for a platform is to enable a safe, rapid flow of change in streamlined teams. That's its primary purpose. So our customers are like our streamlined teams. If we're building a platform, an internal platform, our customers are streamlined teams with this end-to-end responsibility. They're aiming for a rapid flow of change, but they need to do that safely. They need to be able to offload some cognitive load to typically to the platform and other parts of the organization. And so this platform is providing kind of abstractions and simplifications for things that we would otherwise be doing in the streamlined team, but we're able to reduce the kind of cognitive load on these streamlined teams by having some of that activity happen in the platform. And it's important as well to combine these different team types with our 3 team interaction modes: collaboration, X as a service, and facilitating. And we'll look a little bit more later in the talk about how we use the team types and the team interaction modes together. Now, I've mentioned team cognitive load. Let's look at what that means and why that's important. Cognitive load was defined by the Australian psychologist John Sweller in 1988, and he defined it like this: cognitive load is the total amount of mental effort being used in the working memory. When we're building software systems, we're using there's a high degree of cognitive load that we're applying. Typically, when building software, we're taking kind of concepts, human concepts, and encoding them literally in when we're writing the code. That produces a high load on working memory. If we're diagnosing problems in the live environment, or any kind of anything in between, thinking about how data needs to be shaped and so on, these kind of problems incur a high cognitive overhead. And so when we're building software systems, we have to take into account cognitive load, both at the individual and at the team level. What does this actually mean in practice? So this is a bit of a simplification. Generally speaking, cognitive load relates to when we're learning. But typically speaking, when we are building software systems, we are in a significant, there's a significant amount of learning that is actually taking place. And so that's why cognitive load becomes relevant. Generally speaking, there's these three different kinds of cognitive load: intrinsic, extraneous, and germane. Intrinsic is kind of the skills that have been learned and we've been trained to use. Extraneous cognitive load is the kind, sort of like the mechanism of learning, of doing things. Germane cognitive load is in the context of building software. Germane cognitive load is the kind of domain focus. So if I were a Java software developer, then intrinsic cognitive load would be something like how classes are defined in Java. So I don't need to think about it. I've learned it. I just type it. It's just there. I've got to have space in my working memory for that, but I don't need to think about it too much because I've learned it. It's become kind of like innate and automatic. Extraneous cognitive load would be, how do I deploy this application again? Which configuration settings do I have to change? It's so painful every day. Something which is getting in the way. I shouldn't have to think about how I deploy this application if my main focus is building Java applications. That's kind of extraneous cognitive load. It's getting in the way. But I do need to leave space for how do bank transfers work? How do I need to write my code so that this bank transfer works from this place to this place? So what we're trying to do, we can characterize it like this. Intrinsic is the kind of skills. Extraneous is sort of the mechanics of what we're doing, and germane is like the domain focus. What we're trying to do here is we have to have a certain amount of intrinsic cognitive load. That's useful because we've trained ourselves, we've learned a whole lot of stuff. We're trying to minimize and squeeze the extraneous cognitive load because that's not adding any value. And that leaves more space for the germane cognitive load. It allows us to focus on our kind of business domain. So we need to be thinking about this at all different kind of levels of the organization. But crucially, when we think about it in terms of a platform, we absolutely need to make sure that the platform is not increasing the cognitive load on teams that use a platform. Ideally, we need to make sure the platform is reducing the cognitive load on teams using the platform. But traditionally, in the past, many platforms did not take this into account, and so ended up making it very difficult for consuming teams to use that platform. We absolutely have to have this as a really key principle when we're thinking about what the platform provides and how it provides it. In the Team Topologies book, we talk about a thinnest viable platform. If this were chocolate, it would look like these. These are from we have them in the UK anyway. They're called After Eight. I don't know whether you have them, but anyway, this is like the thinnest viable chocolate, right? It's the thinnest thing you could possibly imagine. But we're applying this to a platform. So this is a thinnest viable platform is the smallest set of APIs, documentation, and tools needed to accelerate teams delivering modern software services and systems. And we're aiming to get the smallest amount because there's a danger here. There's a danger that we'll build platforms that are too big. Alan Kelly, who's well known as a software practitioner, says software developers love building platforms, and without a strong product management input, will create a bigger platform than needed. So let me give an example of what we mean by a thinnest viable platform. Imagine you have a wiki page or like a Confluence page, something like that, and it just lists 4 or 5 services from AWS or from Google Cloud and says, use these 5 services in this way. So we've not built anything. We've identified 5 useful services. We understand how they're going to work really well together. And we say, we recommend that you teams start with using this set and use them in this way, configure them in this way to work together. That can be a thinnest viable platform. We've not had to build anything. We've curated. We've kind of looked at the experience of teams using some services, and we've helped to shape that in a way which is going to make it much easier for them to deliver. So a good platform is just big enough, but no bigger. And we might not have to build anything at all. We're just bringing together some opinionated usage for some existing services outside. It's important to think about how the platform evolves. So remember from before, we had these 3 team interaction modes. Collaboration is 2 teams working together for a defined period of time to achieve a specific outcome. So typically in a platform context, that's where we've got a streamlined team working together with a platform team, trying to define how a new API should work, or a new service should work, or how we're going to improve a particular service or API. And we'll work together for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. And then we've defined what that service should look like and behave. And now we can consume or provide that service. So that's where we have a different interaction mode called X as a service. There's also this interaction mode facilitating, where one team is mentoring or helping another team to do something more effective, or to bridge a capability gap. But crucially, in terms of the platform behaviors, we'd expect to have an ongoing kind of change between collaboration to discover something new, and then providing something as a service, which is where we use an X as a service interaction. And so the experience of teams will change depending on what they're doing. Let me explore that a little bit more. So the platform, we're expecting to show some strong collaboration with streamlined teams for any new service or when we're evolving something. So we've got in yellow a streamlined team, and blue a platform team, and they're collaborating to start with. But then with another team, a different team, they might have a different kind of relationship at that point in time. X as a service, they're just providing a service. So the nature of the interaction between these teams feels different at different times, depending on what they're trying to achieve. So by the time we're providing something as a service, then we're kind of just providing support and good documentation, and the services are nice and stable. And generally speaking, this is the kind of evolution that we'd expect to see. We start off collaborating really, really closely, really strongly. We're not quite sure where the boundary should be yet. And eventually, we've discovered enough that we can provide that thing as a service. But we have to discover this, the correct boundary, the effective boundary first. We can't just put in an API without that discovery phase. There's a danger that we put it in the wrong place. So the aim here is to clarify platform service boundaries and provide abstractions to reduce the cognitive load on teams. We discover the right place to put this boundary so that we're not increasing the cognitive load, and ideally we're reducing the cognitive load on the teams that are using the platform. And we'll look a little bit later about a case study from a company in the UK who did exactly this. Before we do that, let's just look at what a product actually is. We can go to Wikipedia. A product is anything that can be offered to a market to satisfy the desire or need of a customer. Okay, sounds fairly straightforward. Let's dive a little bit more deeply. A product, so Marty Karken, back in 2010, from the Silicon Valley Product Group, describes a product as a holistic user experience. It includes the functionality, the design, the monetization, the content, and so on. So that's a bit more specific. But crucially there, he's defining the product as a holistic user experience. That should give us some indicators about how we need to think about our platforms, our internal platforms. And crucially, a product is optional. No one is forcing me to go and buy a sneaker from a shop. I can choose to buy it. I can choose not to. I can go somewhere else. If I really want, I can build my own sneaker. It's quite involved, but I could do. Nothing is stopping me from deciding to go ahead and design my own sneaker. Crucially, a product is optional to use. No one is forced to use the product. A product is also carefully designed and curated. Someone's thought about how it's going to be used, and they've put effort into shaping what that kind of feels like for the user to use it. A product also simplifies something for users. It makes something a little bit more straightforward. And that's a kind of a key aspect. Again, that's why someone would want to buy something. It means that they don't have to invest loads of time and effort into making this thing. It's there to use, there to consume. It's simplified, significant part of their life. And a product also evolves to take advantage of technology changes. So we would expect if we've bought a product in the past, we'd expect to see new versions of that product have different features and to evolve to meet the different kind of technology landscape. So let's just go back to this definition from before and see how a platform relates to products. So a platform is a curated experience for engineers. That's what we talked about before. So let's go back to our previous definitions that we've just seen about a product, but then take the word product and replace it with platform and see what we get. So a platform is optional to use. No team is forced to use the platform. We'll see why that's valuable in a second. Effectively, this means that platforms must advocate for their platform product and market it to internal users. They've got to put effort into demonstrating why this platform is really good, why teams should want to use it. Think about it in those terms. A platform is carefully designed and curated, just like a product. So platforms must be designed with the user in mind. So the internal teams. We've got need a strong focus on user experience or developer experience, DevX. It's kind of a specific kind of user experience. The platform simplifies something for users. That's why these teams would want to use your platform. So platforms must help users to achieve their goals by understanding user needs and simplifying tasks. And finally, a platform evolves to take advantage of technology changes. So platforms must evolve the capabilities they offer, adding new things, but also, crucially, removing stuff that is no longer needed. Removing things that are now perhaps provided by an external provider, or just is no longer relevant. And there needs to be a clear roadmap or trajectory for the platform. And to make all this work, a platform needs to use modern product management and service management. Historically, this has been quite unfamiliar to lots of people working in and around platforms. But the nice thing in 2020 and beyond is we've got a huge number of examples of organizations building and running public platforms as products. Any number of different successful companies out there doing this stuff and sharing how they do it. What we're going to do is take these practices and principles and ways of working and bring it inside our organization for our internal platforms and treat it in sort of like the same way. So a platform needs modern product management and service management as demonstrated by software as a service companies. We don't have to really invent anything. We use the techniques that already work. We do need to make sure we've got some metrics in place. What kind of metrics are going to be useful for a platform? Well, given that our customers are these streamlined teams, we can actually use the 4 key metrics from Accelerate to think, are we helping our customers improve their 4 key metrics? Lead time, deployment frequency, mean time to restore, and change fail percentage. These 4 things are all indicators, they're predictors of high organizational performance. So if the platform is helping the customers of the platform to improve these 4 metrics, the platform is probably doing something really good. So we can actually initially help our customers, help our streamlined teams to improve these 4 key metrics. We can also have some user satisfaction metrics. For example, a company Twilio, which is a cloud API, a cloud telephony provider, runs an internal user feedback questionnaire on a regular basis. And some of the questions are things like this. I can reliably deliver software to dev, staging, and production. Or I understand the cost of running my service. Or my tools are the best in class, and they can agree or disagree. So some simple kind of feedback like this from internally to get people to respond in a kind of emotional way, if you like. So we get very clear steer on the experience, the feeling of using the platform. And it's important to measure adoption and engagement. So how easy is it for our customers, our internal teams, to kind of onboard, to adopt the platform and use it. So we might have some teams currently using the platform, but then some teams are not yet using the platform. What would we do to make it easier for these additional teams to adopt the platform? If we think we've got some good stuff inside the platform, how do we make these teams make it easier for them to adopt? And then clearly we need some reliability metrics, some kind of technical metrics to make sure that the services we're providing are actually really effective and are not causing outages and that kind of thing. But you can see here that those reliability metrics, they're really important, but they're not the first thing that we think about. The first thing we think about is from a product perspective, from a user perspective, and so on. And ultimately, the success of platform teams is really measured by the success of the streamline teams who are our customers. That's where these are the higher level metrics. We're thinking about the flow of change towards production in a safe manner and using that to guide what we're providing from the platform. Let's have a look at a few examples. The first example is from a company called Uswitch, based in the UK. They're a consumer domestic switching service. So they provide comparison for things like mobile, broadband, electricity, gas, these kind of domestic consumer utilities and services. And they allow customers to compare different services from different providers and easily switch from one to the other. The full case study is on our website, teamtopologies.com, and there's lots of really interesting details there. But I'm just going to pick out one or two things to highlight what's in the case study. In all of these diagrams, by the way, there's an implied flow of change from left to right. Sometimes it says in at the top of the diagram flow of change, just to remind you, but that's why we have the diagrams looking like this. We've got this end-to-end flow of change, and that's why these teams are kind of long and take up the entire width of the diagram. So at the beginning, this is a few years ago, they had one team focused on each of these different domains. One team focused on mobile, one team focused on energy, one team focused on broadband, on these different kind of business domains. And each team was entirely responsible for everything relating to their product or service, all of the infrastructure, all of the business logic, everything. And they were entirely independent. This allowed each of these different services to go very quickly, move very quickly, very independently, and gain market share. And the number of cloud services, in this case it's in Amazon, the number of cloud services these different teams were using was going up because they were building more and more infrastructure to support their product or their service. But this became a problem because these teams were building so much infrastructure and in some cases kind of duplicating what they were doing, that actually the cognitive load was becoming too high. They were spending more and more time doing the infrastructure and less time focused on flow of change that was important for their users. So the CTO, Paul Ingle, says, we didn't change our organization because we wanted to use Kubernetes. We used Kubernetes because we wanted to change our organization. Kubernetes is a container scheduling platform that basically effectively puts a nice layer between applications using it and the kind of infrastructure below. So they deliberately introduced a technology in order to change how the organization worked. And that was really kind of a really key insight from them. What this allowed them to do is over time start to track the number of direct calls to AWS, Amazon, and those direct calls started to go down. And that's because these teams were starting to adopt the platform. And so instead of using these AWS services directly, they're using the platform services instead. Effectively, what this chart is showing is the cognitive load is going down as well, because the amount of infrastructure they have to deal with directly is also going down. They had a really clear purpose for the platform. They needed to enable streamlined teams to deliver work autonomously with self-service capabilities without having to raise a ticket. And they knew they needed to do this in order to reduce extraneous cognitive load on these streamlined teams. That was an explicit awareness that they had as they were building this platform. Again, CTO Paul Ingle saying, we wanted to scale our teams but maintain the principles of what helped us to move first. Autonomy, work with minimal coordination, and self-service infrastructure. And part of their success was to treat the platform as a product. So what happened? Early 2018, they started this platform just with a few services, and they had their first customer on board who didn't need very many complicated things. They had some logging and some metrics and so on. And then over time, they added additional kind of platform capabilities, but listening to what the customers needed. And then by early 2020, they'd addressed some really kind of critical cross-functional leads like data privacy, security, alerts, and so on. And the team that generated the most revenue, the team was called Highest Money Making Team, looked at the platform and decided, wow, this is something we can adopt. But crucially, that no team was forced to use the platform. It was entirely the choice of the teams whether they would adopt this platform. So without forcing any team, within about 2.5 years, the platform had persuaded these teams to adopt the platform because it was very compelling to use. And using these kind of product management approaches had really helped them to achieve that. In fact, at Uswitch, it's actually not just one platform. There's more than one platform for different things. And that's kind of an interesting key and additional aspect. We've got, just as you would not expect to have a single platform doing everything, you'd expect to have perhaps a small number of different products focusing on different areas. In their case, they've got a product around customer data. They've got a platform product around affiliate marketing and a platform product around cloud infrastructure. There's another example here from Adidas, who have been using some ideas from team topologies and the previous work we did before we wrote the book. They've been using some of these ideas for a long time. There's a really great talk on YouTube from the head of platforms at Adidas, and you can see perhaps in this slide they're using some of these kind of team topologies concepts around enabling teams, collaborating, and X as a service, and they've identified inside their platform grouping which team interaction modes typically happen with a different capability. So APIs typically use a combination of kind of enabling teams and collaborating. The network and firewall team typically just uses X as a service, and so on. So they're using these team interaction modes and team types to think about the ways in which different parts of the platform product will typically interact with other parts of the organization. And what was really interesting actually in there was that about half the effort and activity spent in this platform is actually around a kind of advisory and community that's helping their customers, internal teams, to understand how to use the platform, listening to what they need, and helping to create a kind of community of awareness around how this platform should work. That's an interesting split in activity. About half their effort on advisory and community, half on actually building stuff and evolving it. And there's other examples as well from around the world. One example is from Spotify, where they've got kind of multiple different levels of support. You can go just with their standard approach. You can customize things a little bit, or you can even just use the API to build your own ways of deploying and creating infrastructure and so on. So that, again, that's a kind of nice product approach which provides a sensible balance between a kind of opinionated view of how to do things and enabling teams to be to self-serve in a way which meets their needs. So it's a great example of developer experience. So let's just have a little recap. What is platform as a product? Why should I adopt this approach? That was the question that we asked at the beginning of this session. So a platform is optional to use. No team is forced to use the platform. That sets up a really important, honest dialogue and about the experience of using that. platform simplifies something for users, it has to make things simpler in the right kind of way. We're not hiding too much abstraction, but we are making the experience of using it more straightforward. We're not making things more complicated. Platform evolves to take advantage of technology changes. We may have built our own logging solution or metrics or something. Now we realize 3 years later that we can just pull this from Google Cloud. So we remove this thing that we built. We just use a service from Google Cloud instead. So it's evolving. And the platform uses modern product management and service management techniques. Why do we ultimately want to do this? Well, we will want to get kind of happier users, engineers who are using this platform. It helps to avoid what you might call technology bloat. It helps things become too big. So we're keeping things nice and small. We've got the right kind of principles behind what we build and when we remove things. And we're explicitly expecting this thing to evolve on a very rapid cadence. We're expecting things to be removed from the platform. We're expecting to remove things that we've built and replace it with something from the outside. So how can we start with this approach? Here are 3 ideas. Firstly, assess the cognitive load currently on teams that are using these platforms. How well can a team understand the platform abstractions they need to use on a regular basis? We have a suggestion for how to run a kind of a cognitive load assessment. We've got that on our GitHub repository. If you just search for team topologies, you'll find our GitHub account. We are actually working on some more advanced cognitive load assessment things at the moment. We're working with a couple of psychologists. But anyway, you just some simple questions around how well do you understand how this service or this platform works is a good starting point. The second thing you can do is to actually define the platform. What does your platform actually do? Is it what users need? And what's the kind of user experience of using the platform right now? Is that what you want? Do you want it to be that difficult to install this thing or to authenticate with this service? Is that a really good experience? So define it. Actually write down what this thing does. You'll be surprised, but in the act of writing it down, you'll realize, it should work differently, or there should be a better experience. And then think about team interactions. Who's responsible for what? Who's kind of impacted? How do you collaborate? How do you work together on new platform services? How do you plan to work together with different teams to define where a particular API sits? We've got another example on our website, teamtopologies.com, from a company who have used the team interaction modes to plan how their platform is going to evolve. So it's worth looking at that. That company is called Foot Asylum. There are loads more examples of organizations using platform as a product approach. I mentioned Twilio and Adidas already. There's loads of companies here. I think the Man Truck and Busting could be interesting. Zalando. You'll be able to find loads of other examples. These ones here are in the slides, and you'll get access to those later. We also have an article on Tech Beacon, which was published recently, talking more about reducing cognitive load and increasing flow and some additional ways of thinking in this sort of way. There's some more resources online, teamtopologies.com/resources, links, slides, videos, all sorts of things. And I mentioned our GitHub repository as well. Just go to GitHub and search for Team Topologies. So hopefully that was useful. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to some questions.
All right, thank you so much, Matthew. That's super interesting, and we got loads of questions there, that's for sure. So we'll try to get through a couple of them, but we need to give you guys and gals a break before we go into breakout sessions. So I hope that you can help us to answer some of these questions in written afterwards, Matthew. That would really
Sure.
be appreciated. There are not many, but there are quite a few. So the first one I'd like to pick up here is that most likely from someone that's in a platform team. We have quite a few of them in Schibsted, both inside of our brands, but also inside of Schibsted centrally. what is different for a product manager working with a platform team versus a streamline team? And just for in some of our brands, we also call the streamline team for outcome teams in Schibsted.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that, the outcome team phrase elsewhere too. So here's a really key thing: a platform is a kind of wrapper. It's like an outer shell. Inside the platform, we'd expect to see streamlined teams working on things that are part of the platform product. So if the platform is a product, inside there you've got teams working on logging, metrics, authentication, data privacy, all sorts of things, design patterns. They're still streamlined teams inside a platform. So the way in which you work with the platform is the same as the way in which you work with the teams who are using it. It's the same patterns and principles at multiple different levels of the organization. That's the nice thing. And obviously, a potential way of getting that expertise into the organization is to find people who have worked on a cloud, like a SaaS platform product, and bring those people into work on the internal platforms, or at least get some expertise from people who have worked for those kind of public cloud SaaS platform. Bring that expertise internally to run those internal platforms effectively. The techniques are basically the same. We're just applying them in a different context.
I think one of the other things that has come up, there's just like a comment, is that when you work with platforms, quite often you have a longer horizon on what you don't have the same kind of rapid speed always, right? Because you very much the outcome teams are depending on the stability on the stability of the platforms and so on. So it's a bit of a different game in a way, at least. One other question here is that how do you do marketing for a platform that may not be better for a single streamline team, but creates value for the company if everyone uses it?
So you have to put more effort into your marketing then, and understanding what users need. This is so important not to force users onto the platform, because if you force teams to use a platform, you are effectively saying we're not going to listen to what you need. And listening to what teams need is so important to make sure we build the right thing, just as it would be if it's any kind of product. A proper product in the marketplace or platform in the marketplace, if they don't listen to customers, they're going to go bust. They're going to go bankrupt because they're not building the right thing. So we have to listen to our customers, understand what they need to build, or what we need to build, and go ahead and build it on that basis. And that might mean that we realize we can simplify something. We might mean that we need to, we thought we should build something over here, but actually we realize if we listen to customers, we can do something much simpler. So we've saved ourselves time and money by not building this big thing. We're now just going to build something much smaller, which actually still meets the need.
All right, let's go down the list. We have some minutes more. In your opinion, how should platform teams view their customers and/or end users? How does that relate to the view of the streamline teams, customers, and end users?
Oh, that's a nice question. So if you think about a streamlined team anywhere, whether you've got direct consumers as customers, or if you're a streamlined team inside a platform, if you think about your customers, what techniques are you going to use? You're going to think about user experience. You're going to use user personas. You are going to think about user goals and user journeys and all of these kind of things. So you applying the same principles and techniques even if you're working inside the platform. So we'll create a user persona for a software engineer, for maybe a tester or an infrastructure person, or a product owner, and we've got these personas. We try and understand what their goals are, what their frustrations are, what their needs are, and we attempt to meet them. So that implies we need some kind of user experience capability inside the platform. We need some ways to develop empathy with our users and understand why they're frustrated by this particular API or this particular thing that the platform provides, and expect to work on improving the experience around that. So it's the same set of techniques and principles that we already use in in the kind of consumer or the end user focused parts of the organization, these streamlined teams focused on these users, we're applying the same techniques, but inside this internal platform now. So the nice thing there is we've probably got people in the organization, different parts of the organization, who already think in these words, and we can use their expertise inside the platform.
And on that note of users here, I mean, one of the questions that's coming up here is, can platform teams also, how is it specifically worded here? Let's see. Should platform teams only create platforms that other teams use, or can they have customer-facing services themselves?
Well, so
I
would say that platforms already have customers. If you don't have customers, then you don't have a platform, because your customers are internal users.
But I think you're asking it because some of these platforms are common, but they're also towards end users.
Generally speaking, so that could work. But generally speaking, what we've seen and our recommendations for other people is that it's easier to have a single focus. So either your focus is on the kind of the end customer, or your focus is on an internal customer. Having a focus on two different customer types who are very different is very difficult to achieve. You're always balancing, and one customer will always be prioritized. So generally speaking, try and arrange things so that you've got a kind of a main customer, a single customer, effectively, as a focus for your delivery. It helps to clarify things. In some cases, you might be able to do it, but generally speaking, as a starting point, expect to have a single customer. Probably more.
All right, my LED light's fired off here. It means that we're on time. So hope it was really great to have you here, Matthew. Thank you so much.
Some great questions. Thank you.
And I encourage all of you to read the book. There are also some short versions on slides, actually originated from Finn. So I think we could share that in the Slack channel as well, where you can read it a bit shorter. And hopefully you can answer the questions in written that I was not able to answer, Matthew. I would really appreciate that.
Yep.
So it's time for a coffee break, folks. If you'd like to meet your colleague, you can go into the Slack channel. You can join the coffee stream. It's a link on Slack. And after the break here, we're going to have our parallel sessions that Jon Einar and Magnus is going to lead. And they start here at 10:30 sharp. And you'll find the links on Slack as well. So see you later. Thank you so much, Matthew. Take care wherever you are, and see you at 10:30.